The room was thick with shadows, the only light spilling from a lone desk lamp that barely cut through the gloom. Alex Mercer sat motionless, a pair of worn headphones clamped tightly over his ears. The soft hiss of static filled the silence before the first voice emerged, his voice, clear yet warped, whispering accusations that clung to the edges of sanity. "You betrayed us," it said, then twisted into a laugh that wasn't his. His jaw clenched, fingers tightening around the chair's arms as the echoes of his own voice stabbed at the fragile walls of his identity. He pulled off the headphones, gasping for breath as if emerging from underwater. The room spun slightly, his vision blurring around the edges. It was becoming impossible to tell where the recordings ended and his own memories began. The stolen voice, once a tool of proof, now felt like a shackle chaining him to a nightmare he couldn't wake from. Maya Lin's knock at the door was hesitant but firm. "Alex, you okay in there?" He opened the door to find her standing in the hallway, eyes sharp but concerned, her presence a tether to reality. "I've got something," she said, holding a small data pad. "New evidence. It might help us cut through the noise." Alex took the device with trembling hands, the weight of hope mingling uneasily with his doubt. "Every time I hear my voice, it's like I'm losing myself a little more." She nodded, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. "I know, but we're not done yet. We have to keep fighting." Together, they pored over the data. Maya pointed out subtle inconsistencies, traces of manipulation that went beyond simple hacking layers, of crafted deception designed to fracture not just Alex's reputation, but his very sense of reality. Later that night, Alex found himself wandering the rain-slick streets, the neon signs casting fractured colors onto the wet pavement. Across the street, Detective Ryan Holt leaned against a lamppost, watching with a furrowed brow. His tired eyes betrayed the conflict inside him, duty pulling one way, growing doubts tugging another. "You don't have to do this alone," Holt called out, voice low but earnest. Alex met his gaze, the weight of the past weeks pressing down. "Trust is the hardest thing to find these days," he said. Back in the solitude of his apartment, the cracked mirror on the wall reflected a fragmented image. Alex's sharp features splintered into dozens of shards, each one a distorted version of himself. He whispered into the silence, "Who am I, if not the voice that betrays me?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the night deepened around him. The fractured identity that had once seemed a curse now ignited a fierce determination. He would reclaim his voice, his truth, no matter the cost. The echo chamber of lies might try to drown him, but Alex Mercer was ready to fight back for his name, his sanity, and the fragile humanity at the core of his being. As dawn crept through the blinds, the city stirred awake, unaware that the battle for one man's identity was far from over. And somewhere in the shadows, the voices waited, ready for their next move. The apartment was drowned in the muted glow of holographic screens, their blue and green light reflecting off Maya's focused face. She sat hunched over her setup, fingers darting with precise urgency over a transparent keyboard. The low hum of the servers served as a soundtrack to her relentless search, each line of code a thread in a tangled web she was determined to unravel. For days, she had sifted through mountains of digital noise, falls, trails, dead ends, and encrypted chatter until, finally, a flicker of certainty emerged. "Gotcha," she whispered, barely audible over the mechanical whir. Her eyes scanned the decrypted message again, confirming the unmistakable signature of Evelyn Cross. The secure communication was a smoking gunner, covert directive outlining the voice hacking operations, the framing strategies, and the manipulation of public perception. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. This was the proof they desperately needed. Her fingers trembled slightly as she copied the files onto a data chip, the weight of responsibility settling over her. She knew delivering this evidence to Alex could change everything, but it also meant exposing themselves to heightened danger. Evelyn was ruthless, and this revelation would provoke a fierce response. Across the city, Alex Mercer stood before a rain-speckled window, the neon lights outside blurring into streaks of color. His reflection stared back at him, a fractured image of a man hunted and haunted. The past weeks had been a relentless blur of accusations, betrayals, and a growing sense of isolation. Then Maya's urgent message pinged on his encrypted communicator, pulling him back from the edge. The message was brief but electrifying. Found something. Meet tonight. Urgent. A mix of hope and dread twisted in his gut. Could this be the breakthrough they had been waiting for? Or a trap set by Evelyn's network to draw him out? He knew the risks, but also understood that standing still was not an option. With a final glance at the cityscape, he grabbed his coat and headed into the night. They met in a quiet, nondescript cafe nestled between a shuttered bookstore and a late-night diner. The dim lighting and hushed atmosphere provided a rare sanctuary. Maya slid the data chip across the table, her eyes locked onto Alex's with a fierce intensity. "This is it," she said softly, voice edged with exhaustion and determination. "Proof that Evelyn Cross is behind the conspiracy." Alex took the chip, feeling the cold plastic between his fingers as if it were a lifeline. "This changes everything," he murmured. "We can finally hit back." Maya nodded, though her gaze flickered with concern. "But she's going to escalate. This won't go unnoticed. We have to move carefully." Alex's jaw tightened. No more running. Time to fight. Meanwhile, far from their fragile alliance, a shadowed figure observed multiple surveillance feeds in a cramped, dimly lit room. The flicker of monitors cast eerie shadows on the walls. The figure's lips curved into a subtle smirk as a new alert flashed a breach in their digital veil. "They're getting closer," the figure mused, voice cold and steady. "Good, let the game begin." Back in the cafe, as Alex and Maya prepared to depart, the weight of the moment pressed down. The evidence was their beacon and their burden. With it came the promise of justice and the certainty of a deadly confrontation. Alex stepped out into the night, rain beginning to fall again, each drop a reminder that the storm was far from over. The turning point had arrived, but the path ahead was fraught with peril. Every step now was a move in a dangerous game where voices could kill, and trust was the rarest commodity of all. The echo chamber around him wasn't just a trap, it was a battlefield, and Alex Mercer was ready to fight for his voice, his identity, and the truth. The night deepened, the city's pulse quickened, and the relentless echo of his stolen voice haunted the shadows, urging him forward into the uncertain dawn. The chapter continues to unfold with detailed scenes of Alex and Maya preparing their next moves, hacking into secured networks, and narrowly evading surveillance as they piece together Evelyn's plans. Each moment is charged with the tension of imminent discovery and the psychological toll on Alex's fragile trust in himself and others. Through dialogue rich with urgency and introspection, the narrative explores the thin line between hope and despair, forging a path toward the approaching confrontation that will decide the fate of many. The air was dense with the sterile chill of synthetic coolers, a mechanical breath that pulsed faintly beneath the endless hum of servers. Alex Mercer crouched in the shadowed alcove just beyond the entrance to the underground facility, the faint glow of security panels flickering over his lean features. His heart hammered in sync with the electronic beeps that punctuated the silencer, rhythmic reminder of the high stakes he faced. Every step forward was a calculated risk. Here, deep inside Evelyn Cross's covert base, the lines between reality and manipulation blurred into a dangerous echo chamber. He adjusted the earpiece Maya had rigged to filter out the facility's active surveillance, but already the subtle interference was seeping through. His own voice, recorded and twisted countless times, was weaponized against Heyman, insidious presence lurking in the static. The soft click of a sensor near his boot warned him to freeze. Alex's breath steadied. Every sense sharpened. He moved like a ghost, sliding through corridors where cold metal walls reflected the dim, bluish light of emergency strips. The facility was a labyrinth of deception, designed to disorient and trap intruders. His fingers brushed a panel beside a reinforced door, the biometric scanner scanning for authorized voices or retinal patterns. Alex whispered a carefully forged command, his voice synthesized by Maya's algorithm to mimic an insider. The scanner hesitated before granting access. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a maze of server racks and tangled cables humming with encrypted data streams. Here, Evelyn orchestrated her web of lies. The silence shattered suddenly. A dissonant distortion flowed through his earpiece, twisting the sound of his own voice into a cruel, mocking echo. "Who's the prey now, Alex?" The words slithered through the noise, a psychological trap set by Evelyn herself. Alex clenched his jaw, fighting the rising tide of paranoia that threatened to undo him. "Not today," he muttered, pushing deeper. He rounded a corner and found a terminal glowing with an active feed showing multiple voice manipulation nodes, a node in Evelyn's sprawling network. His mind raced, piecing together the scale of the operation. This was no mere act of sabotage. It was a calculated assault on identity itself, weaponizing trust and communication. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. Alex spun, drawing a compact pistol, but the figure that emerged was familiar Maya, her eyes sharp and resolute. "You're cutting it close," she whispered, handing him a data drive. "This has the final keys to unravel her encryption. But once you use it, there's no turning back." Together, they moved toward the core control room, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. The door slid open to reveal Evelyn Cross waiting, her posture regal and unyielding. The cold light cast her features in stark relief, piercing dark eyes that seemed to bore into Alex's soul. "Welcome, Alex." Evelyn's voice was smooth, almost melodic, yet laced with steel. "I've been expecting you." Alex steadied himself, voice firm despite the whirlwind inside. "This ends now, Evelyn. Your lies, your manipulation. It's over." A chilling smile curved her lips. "You misunderstand. This is only the beginning. The world will hear what I choose to make them hear. And you are the perfect example of what happens when identity is weaponized." The confrontation escalated into a battle of words and technology. Evelyn unleashed a barrage of voice distortions, attempting to drown Alex's commands and disrupt the encrypted drive's upload. The room pulsed with the tension of digital warfare, every second a fight for control. Alex's training and raw determination surged. He countered with precision, hacking through layers of corrupted code while fending off the psychological onslaught. His voice, his true voice, became a beacon cutting through the fog of deception. The data drive transmitted its payload, unraveling Evelyn's network node by node. As the system crashed around them, Evelyn's composure faltered for the first time. "You think this changes anything?" she hissed. "The damage is done. The world is already lost in echoes. But Alex saw past the venom. Not if we stop listening to the lies. Not if we reclaim the truth. The facility's alarms blared, the building's defenses collapsing as security lockdown protocols disengaged. Maya's voice crackled urgently in his earpiece. Extraction point is compromised. You need to move. Alex took one last look at Evelyn, her icy calm replaced by a flicker of desperation, and turned toward the exit. The battle was won, but the war over voices and identity was far from over. As he slipped into the shadows beyond the base, the echo of his own voice rang in his ears, reminder that in this world, every sound could be a weapon, and every truth a fragile whisper. The next steps would demand more than skill and courage. They would require reclaiming the very essence of who he was. And in that uncertain future, Alex Mercer was ready to fight. The stale, recycled air of the underground facility pressed against Alex's lungs as he stepped cautiously into the dim control room. Screens lined the walls, each alive with shifting streams of data and flickering voice waveforms, a digital symphony of manipulation and deceit. The low hum of servers filled the space, a constant reminder of the machinery fueling Evelyn Cross's insidious operation. His every step was measured, every breath calculated. This was the heart of the conspiracy that had nearly destroyed him. Alex's eyes flicked across the monitors, recognizing familiar patterns of voice, encryption, and distortion. This was no ordinary hacking. It was an orchestration of lies, weaponized sound waves designed to fracture trust and shatter identity. And for the first time in weeks, the hunter had become the hunted. But he was ready. He had to be. As he moved deeper into the labyrinth of technology, a sudden crackling burst erupted from the speakers. His own voice echoed back at him, twisted into sinister accusations and mocking laughter that bounced off the cold concrete walls. The sound carried a venomous familiarity, each syllable a cruel reminder of the identity stolen and weaponized against him. The room seemed to close in, the line between reality and manipulation blurring dangerously. "You think you can stop this?" A voice hissed from the shadows, cold and measured. Alex spun, heart hammering. Evelyn Cross stepped forward, her elegant form bathed in the pale glow of the monitors. Her dark eyes pierced him with an icy calm, unyielding and sharp as broken glass. "You've underestimated the power of sound, Alex," she said, voice smooth and controlled. "Voices are more than communication, they're control, influence, chaos, and I'm the maestro." Alex's jaw tightened. "You've twisted everything I believed in. This ends now." The two circled in the shadows, a duel not only of bodies, but of ideologies. Evelyn's fingers danced over a sleek console, unleashing a barrage of voice manipulations, fragments of Alex's recorded past, distorted and weaponized to sow doubt and fear. The air vibrated with overlapping echoes. His laughter turned sinister, his promises warped into threats. Each assault was a calculated strike, designed to fracture his resolve. But Alex was no novice. Drawing on years of experience, he countered with a device hastily assembled from scavenged tech, a frequency emitter tuned to disrupt the vocal manipulations. He pressed the trigger, and a piercing static filled the room, shattering the digital illusions and silencing Evelyn's electronic symphony. For a moment, the world held its breath. Evelyn's expression flickered a rare crack in her composed facade. "You may have won this battle," she whispered, "but the war for truth is far from over." Alex didn't respond. He knew she was right. The fragility of identity, the weaponization of voice, this was a new battlefield, one that extended beyond the confines of this underground lair. As sirens blared in the distance and security forces closed in, he slipped away into the shadows. carrying the heavy weight of victory and the haunting echo of a battle that had changed him forever. The fight for truth was just beginning. The confrontation with Evelyn was not merely a physical clash, but an intricate battle of minds and technologies. Each voice distortion was a carefully crafted psychological weapon designed to undermine the very core of Alex's identity. Yet, amidst the chaos, his determination never wavered. The cold precision of Evelyn's voice hacking was met with his analytical mind and raw endurance. The sterile hum of the surveillance equipment became the backdrop to a tense game of cat and mouse. Alex sensed every shift in the room, every flicker of a monitor, every subtle change in the soundscape. Evelyn's calm demeanor was a mask hiding a storm of calculated moves, but Alex's intimate knowledge of security systems gave him the edge. As Evelyn unleashed wave after wave of manipulated voices, Alex found clarity in the storm. The distorted echoes of his own voice, once a source of terror, became cues, patterns he could anticipate and counter. His makeshift device, a testament to his ingenuity, emitted a counter-frequency that fractured the digital web Evelyn had spun so meticulously. The final moments of their battle were a crescendo of tension. Evelyn's piercing gaze locked with his, both aware that the outcome would ripple far beyond the walls of this hidden chamber. When the static crackled and her network faltered, the chill in her eyes deepened, a silent promise of future conflicts. For Alex, the victory was bittersweet. He had dismantled the immediate threat, but knew the war for control over voices, over truth, was ongoing. The echoes of this confrontation would linger, shaping the fragile boundaries of his identity and the uncertain future of a world where sound was both shield and sword. As he disappeared into the night, the hum of servers fading behind him, Alex carried the heavy truth. In this new age, the battle for self was fought in whispers and echoes, and the line between ally and enemy was as fragile as a single, stolen voice. The air in the underground broadcast room was thick with tension, a subtle vibration humming through the walls from the servers that lined the space like silent sentinels. Alex Mercer sat rigid before the console, the glow of multiple monitors casting sharp shadows across his weary face, fingers trembling ever so slightly. He navigated through layers of encrypted files and voice data, assembling the final piece of evidence that would unravel the conspiracy that had tethered his very identity to a web of lies. Outside, the city's relentless pulse carried on unaware, yet on the verge of an awakening. "This is it," Maya Lin's voice crackled softly through the earpiece, steady but laced with the gravity of the moment. "Once you go live, there's no turning back." Alex exhaled slowly, glancing briefly at the live feed window. The timer blinked down the last seconds before the broadcast would pierce the digital veil, reaching millions who had been fed a carefully crafted narrative that Alex Mercer, their once trusted security agent, was a traitor wielding his own voice as a weapon against the state. His own voice, twisted and weaponized by Evelyn Cross and her network, had become a ghost that haunted him relentlessly. But now, the truth would reverberate louder than any manipulated whisper. With a final keystroke, the screen flickered and the broadcast went live. Alex's calm, unyielding voice filled the airwaves, cutting through the noise of misinformation. "I am Alex Mercer. For months, my identity has been stolen, distorted, and weaponized by those who seek to destabilize our government and our society. Today, I will show you the truth." The broadcast switched seamlessly between raw voice recordings, uttered, and authentic, and the manipulated fabrications crafted by Evelyn's network. Visuals of data logs, timestamps, and intercepted communications poured across the screen, each bite dismantling the false narrative piece by piece. In the gleaming tower high above the city, Evelyn Cross watched the live feed with a calm that belied the storm raging inside her. Her piercing dark eyes narrowed as the carefully constructed facade she had built over years began to crumble in real time. The cold elegance of her surroundings' glass walls reflecting. The city's neon glow contrasted starkly with the fury simmering just beneath the surface. She pressed a slender finger against the sleek table, the sound sharp in the silence. "No," she whispered, voice low and deadly. "Not now." But the damage was done. The broadcast ignited a spark among the public, a visceral shock that rippled through crowded streets and quiet homes alike. In a cramped safe house, Maya Lin watched the unfolding revelation with a mixture of relief and cautious hope. The glow of the flickering screen illuminated her determined features as she exchanged a meaningful glance with Detective Ryan Holt, their silent nod signaling a fragile alliance forged in the fires of betrayal and suspicion. "We did it," Maya murmured, though the weight of what came next settled heavily in the room. Outside, in the throbbing heart of the city, a crowd gathered in a public square, their voices rising in disbelief and anger. Neon lights flickered overhead as the chilling reality of voice hacking's reach was laid bare. Trust fractured like glass, sharp edges cutting into the foundations of a society that had placed its faith in technology's promise of security. The consequences of Alex's revelation rippled swiftly. Government agencies scrambled to contain the fallout, their own vulnerability exposed to the world. Agent Simmons appeared on emergency briefings, his inscrutable expression betraying little as he attempted to steer the narrative toward damage control. Yet beneath the polish, cracks formed, political pressure mounting, loyalties questioned. Alex knew this was only the beginning. The conspiracy was unmasked, but the war over identity, trust, and truth was far from over. His own reflection in the monitor seemed a stranger haunted, yet defiant. The echoes of stolen voices still whispered at the edges of his consciousness. A reminder that in this new era, even the sound of your own name could be a battleground. He leaned back, eyes scanning the scrolling data and incoming messages. Somewhere out there, Evelyn Cross was plotting her next move. But tonight, Alex Mercer had reclaimed his voice not just for himself, but for a world that desperately needed to hear the truth. "We're not done," he said quietly into the silence. The words a promise and a warning. The screen faded to black, but the reverberations of that broadcast would echo far beyond this room, shaking the foundations of a society built on sound and deception. And Alex Mercer, once framed and silenced, had become the voice that could no longer be ignored.